Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. Buckle up, as it's a long one, and don't forget to listen to the end of the story to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, guys, and please like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. To give some context, I grew up in a pretty dysfunctional family. My parents, both in their mid-60s, are loving people, but incredibly weak when it comes to my sister, Kelly, 32 female. Kelly is the golden child, and she has been treated as such for as long as I can remember. It's like my parents believe she can do no wrong, and no matter how much she messes up, they will bend over backwards to excuse her behavior. I, on the other hand, was always the responsible one. The one who followed the rules, got good grades, helped around the house, and eventually built a stable life for myself. I have a 9-year-old daughter, Emily, and we've always been close. Emily's father and I separated when she was very young, so it's mostly been me raising her. My parents have always had a decent relationship with Emily, but things took a turn when we had to move in with him temporarily a couple of years ago. Kelly and her narcissism. Kelly, my younger sister, is the epitome of a narcissist. She's charming, manipulative, and knows exactly how to get what she wants from people, especially our parents. Growing up, she was always the one getting into trouble, skipping school, hanging out with the wrong crowd, and making bad decisions. But no matter what she did, my parents would always rush to her defense. It didn't matter how many times I'd point out how unfairly I was being treated compared to her. They'd just tell me I was jealous or too hard on her. Fast forward to adulthood, and Kelly hasn't changed. She's gone through multiple jobs, failed relationships, and poor financial decisions, all while living off our parents. They've bailed her out of every bad situation she's gotten herself into. Meanwhile, I've been raising my daughter on my own, paying my own bills, and doing everything in my power to make sure Emily has a stable life. I never asked my parents for anything until 2 years ago. Moving in with my parents. 2 years ago, due to a combination of job loss and rent increases in the city, Emily and I found ourselves in a tough spot. I didn't have many options, so I asked my parents if I could move in with them temporarily while I got back on my feet. They agreed, and we moved into the house I grew up in. At first, things were fine. My parents were happy to have us around, and Emily loved spending more time with her grandparents. But everything changed when Kelly lost her latest job and moved back home too. Suddenly, the dynamic in the house shifted, and it was clear that Kelly was once again the center of my parents' world. Kelly didn't contribute anything to the household. No money, no chores, nothing. She spent most of her time lounging around, going out with her friends, and generally acting like a teenager, despite being a grown woman. Meanwhile, I was working a part-time job while looking for something full-time, doing most of the cooking, and trying to keep the peace. But Kelly made that impossible. She became increasingly hostile toward me and Emily, often making snide comments about how we were invading her space and how we were freeloading off our parents. The irony was not lost on me, considering she was the one who hadn't held down a job in years and relied on our parents for everything. I tried to ignore her as much as possible, but she escalated the situation constantly, picking fights and trying to turn my parents against me. The final straw, Kelly kicks us out. The final straw came about 8 months ago. I had finally found a decent full-time job, and Emily and I were saving up to move out. But before we could make that happen, Kelly went on one of her typical tirades. She came home drunk one night and started screaming at me, accusing me of ruining her life by being in the house and turning our parents against her. It was absolute nonsense, but she was so loud and belligerent that my parents woke up and came downstairs. Instead of defending me or telling Kelly to stop, my parents stood there and watched as she berated me. I tried to stay calm, but after 20 minutes of this, I snapped. I told her that she was the one ruining everyone's lives, not me, and that she was a leech who couldn't even hold down a job. In hindsight, I probably shouldn't have said that, but I was at my breaking point. Kelly stormed off in a rage, but the next morning, she laid down an ultimatum to our parents. Either I had to leave or she would. And you know what my parents did? They sided with her. They told me that it would be best if Emily and I found another place to live. I was furious. I couldn't believe they were kicking out their own granddaughter just to appease Kelly. But they insisted that they couldn't lose Kelly, and they were sure I could figure things out because I was the strong one. So Emily and I packed our things and left. We ended up staying with a friend for a few months until I was able to save enough to get our own apartment. It was hard, but we managed, and Emily is doing okay now. But the whole situation left me feeling completely betrayed by my parents. The current situation: my parents are losing their home. Here's where things get even more complicated. My parents are now in serious financial trouble. For years, they've been supporting Kelly, paying for her lifestyle, and helping her out with every bad decision she's made. They've drained their savings, racked up credit card debt, and even took out a second mortgage on the house to keep things afloat. But now, they're on the brink of losing the house. They've fallen behind on payments, and foreclosure is looming. A few weeks ago, they called me begging for help. They want me to lend them money to keep the house and avoid foreclosure. They've tried to downplay what happened with Kelly, saying that they didn't have a choice back then, and that I should understand how difficult it was for them. They told me that I'm the responsible one, and I'm in a better financial position to help them than Kelly is. But here's the kicker: they still refuse to hold Kelly accountable for any of this. Even now, they're making excuses for her, saying she's going through a tough time and needs their support. Kelly is still living with them, not contributing a dime, while they're about to lose the roof over their heads. And yet they expect me to swoop in and save the day. My response: I told them no. I said that I'm not going to bail them out when they're still enabling Kelly's behavior. I pointed out that they kicked me and Emily out of the house to cater to Kelly's demands, and now they want me to clean up the mess that Kelly helped create. I told them that if they want my help, they need to hold Kelly accountable and stop letting her take advantage of them. Of course, this didn't go over well. My parents are furious with me, saying that I'm being selfish and cruel. They told me that family is supposed to stick together, and that I'm punishing them for something that wasn't their fault. They're also trying to guilt-trip me by bringing up Emily, saying that she should want to help her grandparents, and that I'm setting a bad example for her by refusing to help. Kelly, of course, has remained silent through all of this, probably because she knows she's the reason they're in this mess in the first place. Now I'm left feeling incredibly conflicted. On one hand, I know that my parents are in a bad situation, and it's hard to watch them struggle, even after everything that's happened. But on the other hand, I'm so angry that they refuse to hold Kelly accountable. They've been enabling her behavior for years, and now they're facing the consequences of that. Why should I be the one to fix it when they can't even admit that Kelly is part of the problem? Am I the a-hole for refusing to help my parents after they kicked me and my daughter out to appease my narcissistic sister, and now they're losing their home? OP's parents created this mess by enabling OP's sister for years, and now they expect OP to swoop in and save the day without holding her accountable? Absolutely not. It's one thing to help out family in need, but it's another to throw your hard-earned money at a situation that's only going to repeat itself because they refuse to change. They kicked OP and her daughter out to cater to OP's sister. OP should let them deal with the consequences of their actions. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Not the a-hole. The fact that your parents are still making excuses for your sister after everything she's done is ridiculous. They're in financial trouble because of their own decisions, and bailing them out is only going to enable them to continue supporting Kelly's freeloading. You've done enough by raising your daughter on your own and getting back on your feet after they kicked you out. Don't feel guilty for setting boundaries. Not the a-hole. Your parents have clearly made Kelly their priority for years, and now that their enabling has finally caught up to them, they want you to clean up the mess? Nope. You're not being selfish. You're protecting yourself and your daughter from getting dragged back into their toxic dynamic. It's time for them to face the consequences of their choices, and maybe that will finally force them to stop enabling your sister. Not the a-hole. It's heartbreaking that your parents are in this situation, but you're absolutely right not to help them unless they hold Kelly accountable. She's been freeloading off them for years, and they've allowed it to happen. Throwing money at the problem without addressing the root cause will only prolong the inevitable. Stick to your boundaries, OP, and protect your daughter's future. I've been involved with a man for several months who is undergoing a divorce. The involvement is purely physical, and we aren't dating. Out of nowhere, his soon-to-be ex-wife contacted me last week and wanted to chat. She wanted a face-to-face meeting to ask me questions last week. I asked my friend over the weekend whether it would be okay for me to meet with her. He gave me the blessing since the papers have already been filed with the court, and they're just waiting for the judge to sign off. He just asked me to be honest. There was nothing further her attorney could do to get out of the terms of the prenup, because it was pretty thorough, and her attorney advised her to accept the terms and proceed with an uncontested divorce to save her the financial burden of a legal battle that has almost no chance of succeeding. She rightly accepted her counselor's advice. So today I met her for coffee in a very public space. She wanted to know when I started seeing my friend romantically, and I told her. She wanted to know if it was anything she did that changed their relationship. I told her I didn't know the full extent of their problems, so I couldn't answer that question. What I did know was that he no longer found her attractive after she gave birth to their second child. He found himself no longer romantically compatible with her. I told her if it wasn't me, he would have found someone else. She wanted the truth, so I told her. She started sobbing and accusing me of being callous. I reminded her that she wanted honest answers, and I gave her the answers. My friend had already told her exactly the same thing when he served her the divorce papers months ago. I'm not sure what she was hoping to gain by asking the same questions of me. Frankly, I think getting out of this marriage is the best thing to happen to her because she shouldn't be under the illusion that she could somehow save this marriage. She needs the Band-Aid ripped off so she can move on with her life. Obviously, I didn't tell her this because she didn't ask me this, and I'm not her therapist. I paid for her coffee and I left. I didn't want to be seen with a sobbing woman at the cafe, and she probably could have benefited from some time alone to compose herself. I honestly don't understand why she would seek out a meeting with me and ask me for honest answers if she isn't prepared to hear them. I just don't see myself as either an a-hole or as being callous here, especially when she asked for this. Edit. Someone suggested I add in this from info. The youngest child is 2 to 3. The dissatisfaction occurred over years, culminating in my friend moving into his own downtown condo shortly before he served his soon-to-be ex-wife the divorce papers. Info. Do you think calling him your friend makes you less of a homewrecker? If it wasn't me, it would have been someone else. But it wasn't someone else. It was you. Actually, no info needed. Yes, the a-hole for agreeing to meet her. Not your place, and you made it worse for her. Next time you break up a marriage, do everyone a solid and don't talk to the wife. Yes, the a-hole, and also dumb. You're sleeping with a man who, as far as I can tell from your description of his interaction with his ex-wife, uses women and then discards them. I also can't help but feel like you're defending that behavior. Maybe you think you're too pretty for that to happen to you. I don't know really why you're asking this question because at the end of your post, you're already quite confident that you're neither the a-hole or callous. Except, yes, the a-hole and callous. You didn't need to meet with her. While it's all nice and lovely that you got the approval from your friend to meet, it simply wasn't your place to deliver this feedback to her. You act like you are doing her a favor, and that it's some blessing she's no longer stuck in this marriage. Yet, you didn't want to be seen with a sobbing woman, and ran away as quickly as you could to allow this woman some alone time to compose herself. After giving her details and hurtful feedback, after she already had to experience the heartache that comes with losing someone she loved, the parent of her 2 children, and watch her marriage fall apart. Oh, I'm sure she deserved it though, since she asked to meet with you. That's some audacity. I'm 17 female, and my sister is 15 female. Sometimes she'll ask me to drive her places. If I'm not busy, I usually don't mind. Last night I was trying to do homework when she came in and asked me for a ride to her boyfriend's house. I told her I couldn't because I needed to study, and she said it was an emergency and she needed to go right that minute. She was super upset, so I believed her that it was an emergency and dropped what I was doing to drive her. She was on her phone the whole drive, about 20 minutes, and wouldn't tell me what was going on. It turned out that the emergency was that her boyfriend had some other girl over there, and the 3 of them got into a screaming match on his front porch. I kept honking and telling my sister to stop yelling and get back in the car, and she kept ignoring me. Finally, I told her to get in the car right now, or I was going to leave. She still ignored me and kept arguing with her boyfriend and the other girl, so I left. She called me and texted me a couple of times, and I didn't pick up or text back. I was really annoyed that she pulled me away from doing homework for something so stupid. My sister ended up having to call our parents to come get her from the boyfriend's house, which she says was humiliating. Plus, she's in trouble because the boyfriend's parents complained to our parents about her making a scene in front of all of their neighbors, which they probably wouldn't have bothered doing if my parents hadn't been there. My sister is mad at me for letting her down and being a bad sister, and I'm mad at her for being selfish and immature. But when our parents got my side of the story of what happened, they also said I was wrong for leaving my sister on her own because the situation could have escalated and she'd have had no way to safely leave. So, am I the a-hole for driving away? Not the a-hole. She made her bed. Then she didn't want to lay in it. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Lesson to learn. A 15-year-old never has the kind of emergencies that need you to leave what you're doing like that. Ever. If someone else is threatening S or says they have done something, then you call 911. You don't haul both of you out there. It is never that urgent. Everyone sucks here. Your sister is the a-hole for dragging you into it for sure. But leaving a 15-year-old without a way to get home, particularly during an altercation, is just dangerous. You should have called your parents before you ditched your sister. I agree that OP's sister is an a-hole for making an emergency out of a non-emergency situation and not being upfront about it when she demanded a ride. However, OP was indeed an a-hole for leaving her sister in the middle of a conflict. OP should have 1. Called her parents. 2. Made sure that either her parents were going to call the boyfriend's parents to ask them to keep an eye on sister, or hung out until the parents got there. 3. Only left the house when either boyfriend's parents or OP's parents were willing to take responsibility for the safety of OP's sister. The unfortunate reality of being an older sibling is that sometimes you're the designated adult in the situation, because your parents trust you to be responsible for your siblings on automobile adventures. You don't get to just abandon them somewhere when they piss you off. Not the a-hole. You aren't her parent. You have your own responsibilities. Your sister selfishly manipulated you into bringing her for such a trivial reason, and if she had just listened to you and left, then things would have been better for her. She wouldn't be embarrassed, and the situation wouldn't have escalated. Go do your homework and focus on school, sis. You are solid.